Hi, welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about another way that we can understand the thinking as if. Thinking as the version of you who has whatever it is that you want, and the power of not reacting to the old story. So, the usual idea of think as if is all about stepping into your future self. Visualize it, feel it, walk like it's already done. And it's a nice and useful concept, but in my experience, that's only half the work. Because there's another side to think as if that's quieter but far more transformative. And it's about choosing not to react when the old story makes an appearance. Because it will. Old patterns don't disappear out of courtesy. They just come back to check if you're still available, just like an old ex, right? So the real shift happens when you stop answering the door. So you can treat the old story like old news, because sometimes we can panic when an old belief shows up again and we go like, oh, I thought I healed this. Why am I still thinking like this? What's wrong with me? And nothing is wrong. This is just your mind, your subconscious mind, playing a familiar tune because it's used to it. So the trick isn't to fight it or correct it. It's to relate to it differently. You see it, you acknowledge it, and you mentally file it under outdated information. There's no emotional reaction, no detective work. You don't have to go find all of the possible blocks that you might have. You just identify it and say, okay, oh, this is old. I don't have to identify with it. Because that alone breaks half the spell. The other day I was talking about the power of saying no in subconscious reprogramming. When you realize you are not obligated to accept any belief, any thought as the truth. So this is kind of similar. It's like when you realize that you are just hearing an old story in your mind and you become aware of it, and you realize that you have an option. You can choose not to react anymore to that old story. And the real work is diligence, not drama. Because sometimes we want transformation to feel like a lightning strike, like boom, it's done. But most inner shifts happen through small, consistent choices. And diligence, the unglamorous, steady kind, is what actually changes your identity. And again, it's not just about building a new identity. In this episode, I would like to talk more about how sometimes just getting rid of the old programming and going back to the truth or the spiritual core truth of who you are, it's way more powerful, And it's, about every time the old story pops up and you quietly refuse to buy into it, you're teaching your mind a new pattern. You're going back to the knowing of who you are as a spiritual being. That repetition is what rewires you. And it's not the intensity of one breakthrough moment. So this is how your subconscious learns that the old story no longer gets your attention and doesn't serve you anymore, so it can finally release it. Often, though, it's not a single moment that does the work, but the repeated, consistent choices over time that quietly add up. And let me tell you, once you start doing this, it doesn't take that much time until you start seeing the shifts. Because when you stop identifying with the old story and you stop reacting to it, it's like you naturally get into a different state of mind, one that sees opportunities, that sees new things. It's like your mind now has the energy available to pay attention to different things. And I think that from a vibrational or energetic perspective, if you believe in that aspect, it's like we also send a different signal out into the world. And from a psychological aspect, the same. right? You can see these things from different lens and different paradigms, and it works. So now I'm going to tell you the story of a Hawaiian prayer that taught me about the power of not reacting. This was back in 2010. I was in my 20s, and my mom heard me talk about some personal situation I was probably complaining about. And she said to me, "Oh, you need to do Ho'oponopono." And I said, "What? What? Ho'opono what? What's that hilarious name?" I really laughed about it. But it turned out to be one of the most simple yet profound spiritual and subconscious reprogramming tools I have ever learned. So thank you, Mom, wherever you are now. Ho'oponopono, it's a practical tool. You just say this prayer. It goes like this: "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." You might even read this prayer or heard this prayer somewhere else, right? So I'm not going to explain all the details about it. You can find endless information about Ho'oponopono on the internet, but this is how I applied it. Whenever an old thought, fear, or memory surfaced, I said the prayer. Not to make something happen, but to interrupt the automatic reaction that glued me to old programming. It helped me step back from stories that were never actually me to begin with. It was my way of saying, I'm not reacting from that place anymore. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, I let it go. And honestly, that simple act changed more for me than any visualization ever did. Now, I love visualization and I still do visualization. But I like this part of the work where you just become aware of the old story and about the possibility of stop reacting to the old story. And it's like a new self, the true self, starts emerging, So Ho'oponopono teaches something radically simple. You don't have to visualize, script, or build a whole new identity. You just clear the old data, the memories, the programming, the emotional thing, so your natural state can come through. It's not about adding anything. You're enough just as you are. You're abundant when you connect with the source where all the things come from. The one source, you can call it God, universe, the divine, however you feel like calling it. Everything comes from that same source. So it's not about adding anything to the source, but letting go the old stories that create separation, that create actually a false identity that is in lack or doesn't feel the love. It's just about letting go of all of these things. And it's trusting that underneath all the mental noise, there's a deeper, wiser part of you that knows how to create in ways your mind could never orchestrate on its own. And when we talk about manifestation, sometimes people say, you don't need to know the how. The manifestation will take care of itself. I think that it's the same, when we clear the beliefs and the memories and the programming, it's like this wiser part of our mind, which is like the super conscious mind, can orchestrate things in ways that we couldn't imagine. And that's why I feel like this spiritual tool goes a little bit deeper than human imagination. Because even if you don't imagine anything, just you stepping into the truth of who you are and staying in that state of being, in that creator state, in that natural creator state, will start bringing amazing things into your life that you might not even thought about. So I think it's a really beautiful tool. And with all of these practices, in these days, we have lots of different practices to understand that we are creators, that we can create through the way we think and we be in the world. And I think it's the time when we can acknowledge our power and see what feels good and true to each one of us. It's not that one tool is better than the other one. It's the one that you decide to use that works for you, and that's it. It's the one that you decide that works for you. So that's why I just don't stay only with Ho'oponopono, but I also like, to build my vision board, to get into the energy of what I would like to experience. And I always like make space to receive things even greater than that. So I still use Ho'oponopono today, but I also use imagination, visualization. I blend them, So yes, you can build a new identity, but clear space for it too. Because writing a new story matters, strengthening new beliefs, new empowering beliefs matters, imagining your future self matters and can work too. But there's a piece most people skipped. Your new identity can land if you're still emotionally investing in the old one. Sometimes the biggest upgrade isn't adding anything. It's refusing to energize what no longer fits. When you stop reacting to the old story, it loses momentum. And when it loses momentum, it finally has room to fade. And that's when the new story starts to feel natural, not forced. You don't need to make yourself believe in something. You know that this is the truth of who you are. This is spiritual truth, right? So think as if doesn't always mean acting like the future you. Sometimes it simply means saying, I'm no longer responding as the person I used to be. This isn't dramatic or flashy, but it's incredibly powerful. Because when you stop identifying with the old version of you, the new one doesn't have to be forced. It naturally begins to emerge. So this is the power of realizing that you are the creator, your awareness, your ability to observe where your attention is going, where your dominant thoughts, like what your dominant thoughts are. This is when you realize, oh, I'm the consciousness. I'm the one that's observing all of this, and I can choose differently. So I can start saying, this is a little practice that I've created for myself. When the old story shows up, and generally the old story, it also comes with this kind of victim energy, like I can't do anything, like this is happening to me, I hate this, and we all fall down in that state in some moment. I think it's just part of this the journey of being a spiritual being, doing a human experience. Like there's a part where we all fall into this victim state, but we suddenly wake up and say, oh my God, I was saying all of these things to myself. I don't need to identify with this story anymore. The moment you do that, and then the moment you start repeating that, because again, the old story can show up, but you again are going to make a new choice. That's the moment when you start to create space so miracles can start happening. So what I do to myself is when I see that I'm in this victim energy, I say, do I desire this thing that I'm desiring? Like, do I want it? And I say yes out loud. And then, am I going to keep thinking these negative thoughts? And I say no out loud. And then when the old story shows up, I ask myself, am I going to keep reacting to this old story? And I say out loud, no, I choose not. So this is something I wanted to share with you today. You can ask these questions to yourself, like if it was someone else asking you these questions, like, do you want this thing, your desire? Are you going to keep thinking negative thoughts? And then are you going to still react to the old story? And then probably the answers will be yes, I want this. No, I'm not going to keep entertaining negative thoughts. And no, I choose not to react to the old story. And when you say it out loud, there's this magic happening. It's different if you just say it mentally, you know? It's different. I think like that the neural pathways that get activated are kind of different, and it kind of feels even more real, and like your energy can focus a little bit more, and it's like it interrupts the old story and gets you instantly out of the victim state. It's out of the victim state like this, because if you are in a victim state and someone says, are you going to keep thinking these negative thoughts like consciously? You go like, oh, wait, no. It's like you wake up immediately. So I encourage you to try this. I don't know if it's a technique. It's just something that can help you decide, make the decision, the choice to stop reacting to the old story. And just by, repeating this a couple of times, your subconscious will start understanding, okay, we no longer need this, because every time I show up this thing to this person says, I don't want that. That's not what I want. That's not what I need. I'm not interested. So you're not giving any attention to it. And it will be a matter of days, maybe some weeks. It won't take that long if you do it consistently. And the subconscious will say, okay, she's no longer interested in this thing, so I'm no longer going to bring this up. And this is the new way we're thinking. And maybe you can add some affirmations, then you can do a visualization or whatever you would like to reinforce new empowering beliefs and things like that. And that's it, Just repeat it and see what miracles start showing up in your life when you stop entertaining the old story, because in that moment, you are thinking as the person who has what you want. So thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, please like, comment, share, or subscribe. And remember to keep it simple, have fun, and stay inspired. Bye.